Yet so far. Let's see if that Pikachu and Zekrom deck is as good as it seems. Remember, we saw the stats earlier, and in terms of converting players playing it into top 16s, there was no better deck in the tournament. If you wanted to get through that first few rounds of competition, Pikachu and Zekrom was the deck to choose.
Yeah, it's not a huge surprise either. It's one of these archetypes that's great going ahead. It has good tempo, but it still has one of the best comeback win conditions in the game, where you try and combine Reset Stamp, put them to a low hand size, and also paralyze at the same time with that Raichu and a low-end Raichu GX. That rings true in all of these three prize matchups, and we're coming into one this game. Both players are representing 4 Crushing Hammers in their list also, so that is definitely a tug of war we're going to be watching throughout this series.
Can't be a bit of the old coin flips. We're starting with Matias here, and actually not a bad opening hand at all. You see those 3 Eternatus VMAX, and it's a little worrying, but one of them gets turned into whatever you want with Pokemon Communication, and then we've got a quick ball to potentially get ourselves a Crobat, or maybe hold to get a Crobat next turn, and you've got a VMAX ready to evolve up turn 2. Would like to see an energy there, but again, I would imagine we're going to see a Crobat being dropped down here to try and draw some more cards as well, so not a terrible start there from Matias, just needs to get an energy established nice and early on in the game.
Yeah, pretty hopeful. Crobat really, 4 cards really going to be digging for that energy drop. They only play 9 copies of Darkness Energy, so on the lower end of the spectrum comparative to most lists. So we'll see if this Crobat can get them into one of these energies. They do pick one up, which is a really nice turn to cap things off. A potential great ball for more Crobats next turn as well.
Not bad, and I love going for that second Eternatus, going, look, I've got 2 VMAXs in hand, I might as well have 2 Vs down so I can get both of them rolling turn 2. So as long as that Great Ball or top deck can turn into some kind of draw here, it's looking like Matias is going to have a pretty decent start to this game as we head on over and start having a look at the Pikarom side of the board.
Yeah, so really for Pikachu and Zekrom, Miguel is going to be looking to get down Bolton V early. It is preference to go second. You want to try and use Bolton because it can get, with Electrify, 2 energies out of your deck straight onto your attackers. And we are going to see the Quick Ball getting rid of an Air Balloon. It is exactly going to go ahead and find that Bolton V. Also this turn, you may want to try and find some Crushing Hammers, of course. So digging into your deck with the likes of Dedenne, also a pretty good choice here, if possible.
Absolutely, and a pretty decent start so far. Got the Boltund, got the switch, got that big charm onto the Pikachu and Zekrom, or Pikarom as we often call it, giving it a little bit more bulk. We do have an Air Balloon there as well. There is a Marnie starting off, which could be good or bad for Matias. We'll never know because we did not see what that Great Ball turned into. And we do see the energy, so, and a Crushing Hammer. Oh.
The Crushing Hammers are actually huge, because it's the difference between 270 damage and 0, essentially. So these Crushing Hammer flips are huge in this matchup. Pikachu and Zekrom oftentimes is forced to put down multiple 3-prize Pokemon, which means in theory, the Eternatus VMAX can win in 2 attacks, because they just deal so much damage. So these Crushing Hammers, they're integral to Miguel's strategy. They also play 1 copy of Team Yell Grunt, so this is going to be something that has to be prioritized in this matchup for certain. As it stands, an early Tails flip, Electrify is still not a bad fallback plan.
And we do see a Crobat being top decked by Matias, but it's a kind of an awkward hand because you've only got 1 bench space without that VMAX coming in. So do you quick ball away the Eternatus just to try and empty out your hand and then Crobat? I mean, honestly, that's probably where I'm going here. I want to draw as many cards as possible because if you hit the VMAX and you hit an energy and then like a couple of bench Pokemon, all of a sudden you've got yourself a KO on that Boltund for 2 prizes really early. Or if you don't need to play a supporter, you can actually use that boss's orders, could have used that boss's orders, to grab Pikachu and Zekrom and maybe get 3 prizes. It would be an aggressive turn 1 or turn 2 play, but it was potentially on the board.
Yeah, Matias instead just going to forego that and have the highest number of cards possible to draw from the Crobat. Does get into a couple of Crushing Hammers. Matias actually made the decision this turn harder for them by switching into Eternatus when they had a free retreating Eviltal. Regardless, 2 huge head flips. They've undone an entire turn from Miguel. They're also able to establish a power plant when Miguel's are only sat on a 3-card hand. And the VMAX comes down. What a monstrous turn this is becoming.
Absolutely. And I mean, I don't think you've got to go for the Crobat there because Crobat would put you at 7 Pokemon, which is 210 damage, which is a KO on the Boltund, removing all the energy from Miguel's side of the board. And double Crushing Hammer plus a KO on that Boltund. Look, we all know you don't really want to play a Crobat for no extra cards, but you know what? If it's going to get you a 2-prize knockout and remove all your opponent's energy from the board, it is totally worth it. Miguel's got a 3-card hand and no energy on the board.
What an insane turn that was. It was looking a little bit dicey with some awkward decisions in there, but Matias navigated it well. Obviously much better when you hit the heads on those Crushing Hammers. You can see how integral they are because Miguel now is just put back in this spot where they need to try and just electrify again. Even with this professor's research, Matias knows there's no damage coming in. There's not enough energy to go around. So, yeah, they've bought a free turn. Everything's powered up. They can start getting backup energies next turn by the looks of things. Miguel is in a tough spot already.
Does get to replace a power plant. That was the other great part about Matias' turn. Just seeing that power plant come down to turn off potential to Dene. It has been bumped now. But if you look at Matias' board, I mean, Miguel's going to be looking to electrify. But even if he does, boss's orders... Crobat, there's a quick ball, energy, all of that. Matias has got a KO on that Pikachu and Zekrom next turn, even if this Crushing Hammer comes up heads. Which it does.
It does come up heads. That's nice. Evening out the odds is something you'd like to see. You don't want it to come all down to weighted luck in one direction. Both players getting a slice of it this time around. And Miguel is able to establish another Boltund here.
No switch
out either. This is really awkward. So again, no energy getting established at all. So Matias is really putting themselves into a very strong position here.
I think we might have reached that point in the game where it is as good as over. It's not entirely. Miguel could go really energy denial here. We could see Team Yell Grunt plus Crushing Hammer, then maybe a Crushing Hammer the following turn and really trying to slow down the energy attachments, but that is, I think, literally all Miguel's got here. Matias has gone and taken 5 very quick, easy prizes. We've got a full bench. We've got a fully powered Eternatus. We got Switch. We got Boss's Orders. I mean, this is looking pretty tidy.
Yeah, Miguel really looking for possibly like a reset stamp Boss's Orders kind of play or a Yell Grunt into a reset stamp. These are the things he needs to buy a turn because nothing in his deck can take the hit right now. So we are going to see the Quick Ball getting rid of a Boss's Orders, actually. So that's not part of their path by the looks of things. They're possibly looking for Dedenne GX now to draw some additional cards. They still need a target to even use Boltund with, to be honest. So we do see Dedenne GX. Like you say, Yell Grunt can be an option. Crushing Hammers hitting heads are a huge way back into this game. And Reset Stamp has to be a priority.
Oh, yeah, and it's going to take something like that. Oh, there is the Yell Grunt, so that's big. That gets rid of 1. It's not enough yet, but with a Crushing Hammer as well, and that is it. If there isn't a Crushing Hammer heads, we've seen a supporter, there's no Marnie. I mean, Reset Stamp Crushing Hammer is absolutely key. A Reset Stamp, if Matias doesn't draw an energy, could do it, to be fair. But that is the kind of level we're talking here. It is... Miguel is really in, I need these couple of cards and cross my fingers territory. It is going to be a hard road back in this game.
Looks like we are going to see a Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX come down. Tapu Koko going to dance to the Ancients, get some extra energies into play. So Boltund can attack here. We do see a Reset Stamp. This is huge for Miguel. Let's see what Matias ends up with. Oh.
Oh, no.
Oh, well, Miguel would have lost to a lot of cards here. He would have lost to any energy card, lots of supporter outs as well. So it was really living on a prayer, to be honest with you. It was a lot to come back from here, but unfortunately, Matias does have the Professor's Research. Now, it's not over yet. There is a chance there is a missed energy card, but it would be unlikely.
There is no more chance, I'm afraid. The energy goes down, and we do see Dread End being clicked. Boltund goes down, and Matias takes a very straightforward 6-0 victory. And quite frankly, that is Eternatus VMAX doing what Eternatus VMAX does. You get 2 energy on, you fill your bench, you hit for 270, and with 340 HP, which is, I'm fairly sure, the record for just a standard Pokemon, it's so hard to come back. You need to either match their speed, have some kind of comeback option. When Eternatus gets that kind of start, it is an extremely difficult deck to beat unless you've got a really specific strategy which can kind of counter it.
Yeah, Pikachu and Zekrom actually loves going second as well for the exact reason that you get to electrify. You end your turn on 3 energy. That should lead you into Pikachu and Zekrom just maintaining attackers throughout the entire game, but when you hit 2 heads on Crushing Hammers and then attack through the active, leaving your opponent with nothing, it meant that there was just another turn for free for Eternatus, and there's nothing scarier because the damage is just there. There's nothing to deny the opponent at that stage. They can just keep smashing through, and that's exactly what we saw. Not the reset stamp comeback that we were hoping for. You know, all it took was an energy card to win the game, and that's not much to ask for.
No, it really isn't. Not with that many cars and that many out. So let's head on over into game 2 then, see if we're going to have a slightly different result. I mean, you'd like to believe, at least if you're Miguel, you'd like to believe that that cannot happen 2 games in a row. That was, I mean, if you're Miguel, that is actual worst case scenario. You go second, you get the electrify, and it's all for naught.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, this is one of the reasons why Crushing Hammer is such a popular card in the game, because it is such a huge swing. When you're denying potentially 270 damage or just an attack altogether, I mean, wow, it's such a strong card. When there's such a few number of turns in the game, it can completely swing things, especially when you get back-to-back heads. That's just a real big climb to come back from.
And let's not forget, before Matias hit the double heads, Miguel had a huge flip, and that was tails. Had that been heads, we wouldn't have seen the attack onto Bolton. So flips really making a huge difference early on last game. This game, we're seeing Matias do pretty much exactly what we would expect. We've got a Crobat in hand, ready to go. I didn't see an Eternatus in hand, so you've got to think one of those is coming out. There's an energy to attach, there is a Crobat ready to go, and that Spiritomb, I mean, look, it takes a lot, all right? But if you get 5 damage on a Spiritomb, you can get a one-hit KO on Dedenne. That is something you've got to keep in mind in a matchup like this. It can be the difference.
Yeah, especially when energy removal is part of the game plan. So it is honestly a really big deal to remember, because that build spike does just sort of tick along, and the earlier you find it, the better. The less turns you need for it to be live. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see build spikes throughout this game, as Crobat is going to refill for a nice 5 cards here. Looks like Matias is debating the build spike here. Seems reasonable in the early stages. Does have good ball search to fall back on next turn. And a decent turn to end on here. Again, great ball search for next turn to keep chugging through the deck.
Absolutely. I mean, when you're playing Eternatus, you need to... What you're looking for in the first few turns is a Crobat to keep you rolling, and he's got, you know, everything you need there. Having said that, looking over to Miguel, what we've got is an Electromagnetic Radar, and that gets you a Dedenne, which is what Pikachu and Zekrom were always looking for to get rolling.
Yeah, it looks like they kicked off with Dedenne, and then possibly from a mulligan or from the top deck they drew that Boltund, because you'd always otherwise want to lead out with that guy. But yeah, a nice Electromagnetic Radar, getting rid of 2 lightning energy, always solid for you. Opens up the door for Tapu Koko Prism Star straight out the gate. I still have to imagine that the route is still there for Miguel to go for the Electrify. It obviously didn't go as smoothly as he would have liked in that Game 1 situation, but it's still your bread and butter turn 1 play.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, what we basically got here is, it's a well-established archetype, Pikachu and Zekrom. Everybody knows it. Everyone knows it's a great deck. Everyone knows how it works, or at least kind of the basics of it. There's always little tricks here and there. And it works. And if it didn't work, we wouldn't be in losers round 10 of this giant online tournament with this deck still alive and still in the bracket and still rolling. Last game really was a bit of an aberration. You don't expect that to keep rolling. We do see a Crushing Hammer from Miguel. It was tails in game 1. It's tails in game 2. That stops a turn 2 Eternatus VMAX attack. If you flip ahead 2 games in a row, it's tails.
Yeah, that's really rough. These are just huge plays that you need to try and make. They just give you such big tempo swings if you can pull it off. Looks like Miguel is going to put the Pikachu and Zekrom into the discard pile, meaning that he can attack with it using Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX, which it's a bit risky putting it into play in this matchup, because you know your opponent is playing 2 copies of Power Plant, but regardless, it's still coming into play, forces an extra Pokemon on the field, of course, for Eternatus VMAX to deal with. And because there are a couple copies of Big Charm in the list, it's one of the only Pokemon that can actually tank a hit. So Miguel taking a calculated risk here, does get the Dance of the Ancients off as well. So is looking for possibly even Attach Retreat now works to get your Boltund into the active and starting to electrify here.
It really does. We see energy on Boltund, energy on Mewtwo and Mew. Of course, Eternatus has a pretty hard cap of 270 damage, not including any Galarian Zigzagoon. So I think it is the extra HP. And there is the Big Charm, as you predicted, Joe. So that is going to make it. Now we've got a 300 HP Pokemon. Can still be taken out with some Galarian Zigzagoon. I believe there are enough in Matias' deck.
Two. Yeah, only two. So
Oh, and there aren't any. No, so you're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
This is kind of the new age of Eternatus. A lot of Eternatus have moved away from early on in the metagame. We saw up to 4 Zigzagoon and up to 4 Scoop Up Net, and players have gone towards Crushing Hammer instead. Now, you can't argue with it because it worked so well for Matias game 1, but it is something, you know, that can be punished by the Big Charm now, and the board for Miguel is even more robust than last time.
Yeah, I mean, Miguel's got 4, and we could see a treble Crushing Hammer heads, plus a KO on the Boltund.
Oh, don't say it, Ross. No, it's happening.
I'm so sorry, Miguel.
There's a huge hand coming in here. Eternatus VMAX off the top. You can turn attach, you can quick ball for a Crobat, you can grab yourself 5 cards and then research into a fresh 7. You're right, there could be a lot of Crushing Hammers coming this turn.
You can quick ball for 6 if you're willing to get rid of the energy, which it looks like is going to happen. So, oh no, it is still going to be a Crobat.
Holds the research, right?
Yeah, of course exactly. He does, of course, sorry. So that's still pretty gosh darn big. So we do see the quick ball coming down there. We've got Eternatus, always nice to have a backup Eternatus. Oh, so it's not a Crobat. It is just straight into a full Professor's Research.
Oh no. Ross, you said it, Ross, not like this. Let's find the switch, so we'll be attacking. Okay, we don't see 3 heads on the fly. Okay, we actually see 2 tails, so we're evening up the odds this time around. We can see Matias is doing the numbers here to make sure that the Eternatus is doing enough. Certainly is. Going to take that knockout. Not making any pushes with Crobat because they're happy with the turn as it is. The only thing they could draw into at this point would just be their last Crushing Hammer that could make any difference. Possibly Power Plant would be worth digging towards. Outside of that, pretty happy with the turn overall.
No, very, very happy. That was quite nice. Of course, now we got the problem of that Mewtwo and Mew, and it's exactly what Miguel's looking for. It's exactly what Miguel's trying to do, is the fact that you can tank a hit. And there is no Tool Scrapper in Matias' list, and so that basically opens up a Pokemon that can actually take a hit, and that's awesome, because the thing is, Matias' Eternatus can tank a hit pretty nicely. So you need something to try and kind of even it out. So still advantage Matias, I think, in this game. We've still seen a great start, but Miguel is in a stronger position turn 2 than we saw in the previous game.
Yeah, especially because the Mewtwo and Mew can take a hit. And it looks like Miguel is going to be opting to use Pikachu and Zekrom's attack. Otherwise, they probably would have promoted another Pokemon if they wanted to try and make some tandem shock shenanigans happen for them, copying Raichu and Alolan Raichu. Instead, going to take a conservative approach, make sure they just thin their deck of all these energy cards that they don't want to draw into later, make sure that they have a backup attacker after this Mewtwo goes down. It will stay in play for a couple of turns, but it means that now there's also the Raichu and Alolan Raichu as the backup plan. Hits a heads on Crushing Hammer, which helps out as well, especially because otherwise Matias could have made some sneaky Boss's Orders plays. But now looks like Matias will probably go fishing with Research next turn, as we see a really relevant 150 damage come in, and we're going to start seeing the Raichu and Alolan Raichu in the back get powered up.
Absolutely. Get a bunch of damage down, get a bunch of energy. That is huge. The energy goes back. Now we do see the power plant, and this is why you're a bit worried to play Mewtwo and Mew, because it is a GX that relies entirely on its ability. So that means that actually what happens if you can't bump that stadium? You can obviously attack with Raichu, Alolan Raichu, but that's in range of an Eternatus. Having said that, there is no energy on the backup Eternatus now, so there is a possibility of Matias actually running out of energy and having to take a turn off attacking if the KO does come down.
Yeah, Matias is having a look here, thinking what the push potential is. It's one of those things where, because there are still Crushing Hammers and Yell Grunts in the mix, this 2-shot isn't guaranteed. You have your Spiritomb in the back, but that's easily response KO'd. You're basically never going to be able to finish off the Mewtwo, but the thing that you really want to do is have a Power Accelerator to be the finisher. So you want to hit for the full 270 if you can, because then you could Power Accelerator and be safe against Crushing Hammers, but as it stands, doesn't Quick Ball, settles for the 240, and is hoping that this Power Plant sticks, because, let's face it, Miguel's hand is still quite low here.
It really is. Oh, but there is a professor's research. There's an air balloon as well on the Dedenne, so could potentially switch into the Dedenne and retreat with that air balloon if you wanted to, or just attack with the Raichu and Alolan Raichu. Either of those will be absolutely fine. So yeah, that is looking pretty nice. Having said that, it's been a few seconds since the professor's research dropped, and we don't actually have anything hitting the board yet.
Yeah, no stadium replacement as of yet. It could just be looking for switch outs, of course. But if you are able to take this KO, you do remove all energy in play. And if you can take the knockout with the Raichu Alolan Raichu, you're forcing more than just an energy attachment on the Spiritomb here. You would also be forcing Boss's Orders. Now, we do know Matias has these cards right now, but Miguel really needs to continue to push here. Actually is looking for Crobat V, a Pokemon that can come down and isn't affected by Power Plant, to try and get him out of this rut.
Yeah, I mean, that's got to be the way we're looking. I mean, it's weird. Both these players are potentially in pretty bad positions. Matias is very close to actually having Eternatus KO'd and losing all the energy. And Miguel has the potential of being locked out of Mewtwo and Mew while having the Raichu and Alolan Raichu KO'd. It's an awkward situation here kind of for both players. It feels like this game is still a way away from ending.
Yeah, this is kind of on a knife edge, to be honest with you. The Crobat does help out for sure. We see the switch into the Dedenne GX with that air balloon, so does have the option to use Raichu Alolan Raichu if they'd really like. Also see the Eldegoss coming in now as well. We've already seen the Professor's research this turn, so just sort of getting it in the hand for now. It could even be used as a random 2-prize option to finish off a Spiritomb in a response KO manner. That could even be a reason why we're seeing Dedenne get powered up here. A potential response KO on Spiritomb, believe it or not.
I love anytime we can attack with Dedenne, I am pretty gosh darn happy. That is always something that it's just, I love seeing weird things in Pokemon. Weird decks, weird plays, Pokemon which are there to support, which end up actually attacking. Mewtwo and Mew decks attacking with Oricorio GX, always a favorite of mine. Here, it does look like we've got the Tandem Shock, and it's not a KO, but it is a paralysis leaving on very, very little HP.
Yeah, and looks like Matias is going to have to go fishing with Crobat. Not much else they can do. The paralysis is sticking right now, and I believe we've already seen 1 or 2 switches played in the early stages, so there's no guarantees that Matias will take the, grab the switch straight away. They do obviously have supporter options outside of the Crobats, and they can thin a few cards here to actually draw 6 from the Crobat if they take no target from the next Quick Ball. But it is getting rid of a Boss's Orders, leaving them with 1 remaining, which could really help Miguel with that prize map, make Matias go through 8 rather than just go through the traditional 6 prize route.
No, absolutely. Well, one thing I do like from Matias's board here is that extra energy attachment. There is an extra energy that can come down, so it's unlikely all the energy goes away. Now, obviously, there is a potential crushing hammer. I don't believe Miguel's used all 4. I could be wrong about that. But it
do
does
see switch, though. This is huge.
Oh, yes. But, oh, yes, of course, we got the free retreating Evil Tal as well. So, yeah, that's going to be pretty nice. Oh, and a heads-on crushing hammer.
Just to boot, this Power Plant is still sticking right now. Yveltal can be that vital pivot. That's why it's becoming more and more of a staple card in Eternatus as the format has gone on. Thanks to the really early Zigzagoon damage. It's actually still not enough to take the KO here. So just hitting into both of these tag teams, a little bit of damage away. So in some regards, it makes it surprising that we've seen the attachment onto the bench Eternatus V Max. It could have been time to attach to Yveltal or Spiritomb and let those guys do the rest of the heavy lifting so you're more safeguarded around energy removal at this stage.
Well, we said there's 2 Galarian Zigzagoon in Matias's list, so does that open up the opportunity for essentially a Galarian Zigzagoon? It's only 10 damage away from being KO'd, so that's 2nd Galarian Zigzagoon, and I love mid-turn KOs, because you get to KO the free prize Pokemon, pick up those free prizes now, and then they're available to use, straight away. So that is a little bit of an option. It is not safe on the bench, but I think we're going to actually see it. Wow. Oh, that's huge.
Yeah, Team Yellgrunt removing a Darkness Energy here. So it does still mean that the Dedenne is in the active. It forces that gusting opportunity. Dedenne is going to try and skew that prize trade. There's only 1 Boss's Orders remaining, and there's, like a Crobat for 1 or 2 cards only to get there. So Miguel's got themselves into a really good spot and 3 huge prizes their way.
I think Matias. No, if we see Galarian Zigzagoon, that's game. That Spiritomb is already ready. You put a damage on with the ability, you attach, that's 160, that's a KO. There's a Pokemon communication. So if that Galarian Zigzagoon is in the deck, we should be able to see Galarian Zigzagoon KOing the bench Raichu and Alolan Raichu, Spiritomb KOing Dedenne, and Matias carrying on through the tournament. Is it in the deck? You've got to think it is. That's got to be the play we're working towards here. It is in the deck. I love this. This is such a wonderful way to win the game. This is not what you expect in an Eternatus VMAX deck, but it absolutely does the trick. Wonderful plays by Matias here, taking out that bench Raichu and Alolan Raichu, going down to 1 prize remaining, and all we need here is the Yveltal to retreat, the Spiritomb to attack, and Matias is going to be carrying on through the loser's bracket. It's a strange way to win. It's not what we expect. But oh my goodness, is that a fun way to win.
Yeah, really good stuff from Matias, really proving that they know this deck inside and out. That Zigzagoon ping really early on in the game mapped out perfectly for an epic 5-prize swing turn, even after Imani in a low hand size, and, you know, with such good big charm placement trying to stay out of range, he got himself right back in it.
Absolutely. It's not often you see Galarian Zigzagoon poking a free prize tag team GX for 10 damage and taking all 3 prizes. Even though it's possible, we called it out nice and early, it's not that often a Spiritomb actually gets to sit there for 5 turns, building Spite and taking a KO on a Dedenne. Seeing them both in the same turn to take 5 prizes, and bearing in mind that was after we saw a Dedenne KOing an Eternatus, we saw both players